Our national security analyst, KT McFarland, with me. KT, good morning to you. What I find remarkable is the whole of Europe and its security apparatus had been looking for the so-called mastermind. I call him mastermind number 2 because the original mastermind was killed in the days after in that safe house, that apartment on Saint-Denis in central Paris. This was his brother. He eluded capture, KT. Not only that, but he was living in Brussels, Belgium, possibly the entire time. When you think about that prospect now, the cover he had, the assistance he had to live and hide in plain sight, how difficult this challenge is, be it Brussels or Paris or perhaps here at home at some point very soon, KT.
You know, Bill, I think we have to understand that we're in a whole new world now. Global jihad has declared war on all of Western civilization, and we are losing that war. There's no better example than what we're seeing in Belgium today, and as you point out, the most wanted man in Europe, whose picture was plastered all over Europe, he was hiding in plain sight for 4 months. People looked the other way. There must have been an infrastructure, a large infrastructure, that protected him. We know that he had more attacks planned. We are losing this war, and so when the dust settles from all of this, I certainly hope that a strong American leader, because it can only be an American leader, can step forth and say, we are going to do to radical Islam what we did to the Nazis during World War II and what we did to the communists during the Cold War. We are going to have a coalition. We are going to have an ideological component, an economic component, a military component, a diplomatic component, a religious component, and we are going to defeat this before this defeats us.
KT, when you think about the technology that law enforcement can use these days, you think about the technology that terrorists can use as well. They are changing, KT, as quickly as we can keep track of them. You found it in the phones they're using. You find it in the immigration rules, the migration out of Syria into Europe, and you also find it with their ability to make bombs and to do it at will.
Yeah, I mean, there's a magazine that Al-Qaeda and radical Islamists, they're both, Al-Qaeda and ISIS put out their own little magazines, and they're like the Martha Stewart living lifestyle for jihadists. And they have step-by-step instructions. How do you make, one title is how to make a bomb from the kitchen of your mom. In other words, as Martha just said, using household ingredients to make explosive devices and take them into civilian areas. Bill, the other thing that strikes me, though, is the attack in Belgium. Think about where that took place, at an airport, but not through the security screening, not when you're on your way to the plane. It took place in the arrival area where there's no security. No, very few airports in the world outside of Israel have security at the curbside, and yet this is where it took place. So this is a war. We are always one step behind. They are always one step ahead with cyber technology, social media, soft targets. And we really need to now take a deep breath and realize we're all in this together. The United States, Europe, Egypt, our Sunni allies, and maybe even Russia. Because if we don't stop it now, it is only going to spread and get worse and go after more and more soft targets.
There will be a lot of analysis in the days to come about Syria and Iraq, KT, and perhaps missed opportunities, be it a safe zone, be it the red line from 3 or 4 years ago. You touched on this in your first answer. What do we now do to try and stop what appears and is obvious after these images today, that this is a growing threat, KT?
We're losing this war. That's the terrible, dirty little secret. We have not, everything we're doing isn't enough. We're doing a little pinprick here, a little pinprick there. I think take a deep step breath. What is our visa waiver system? Is that working? What is our immigration system? Is that working? We, the United States, we, Europe. Go to our European allies. Europe is about to collapse. It's about to pull itself apart over this issue as every country realizes we don't want to be part of a European Union that has this. We're going to all work for our own selves, every man for himself. So the United States needs to consult with those allies, but not just consult, but take an active leadership role. Here's what we're going to do, guys. We're going to have an ideological component, no more political correctness. We're going to talk about the value of Western civilization and why radical Islam is not the way of the future. An economic component, bankrupt these people. Go to the source of their wealth. It's not cheap to be a terrorist. Go to the source of their wealth. It's way bigger, Bill, than just putting a couple thousand troops in the Middle East. That doesn't solve it. All that does is solve it for a second, and then the radical Islamic threat moves someplace else.
KT McFarland, thank you. National security analyst there.